Good morning, guys. Just look. Ooh, look at that play button back there. And my special drawings from my girls. Here editing the knife video, which is going to be good. We'll get to that in a minute. But I wanted to show you guys, those of you who have been invested in the truck project, a little job we did with it yesterday. Gorgeous Sunday afternoon here, guys. There's a town little service that's happening. We're planning on using the flatbed to carry the gear. I've been using the flatbed to carry the gear, church gear, for open air services ever since she's been done. But today I think we're actually we're setting up in an area that doesn't have a stage, so we're using the flatbed as a stage as well. I figured I could bring you guys along. Hey, babies! Got our load of equipment. We're gonna launch here in the back.
I have seen the burden God has laid on men. He has made everything beautiful in its time. He has also set eternity in the hearts of men.
So that flatbed has already been involved in lots of little projects and things. No big heavy hauling or anything yet, but it's really useful to have a tool like that around. Anyways, we'll get back to editing here and back to work. It is Monday morning, the day you're watching this now. What is Labor Day, right? I hope some of you guys get to enjoy it though. But for a lot of us small business guys and people who work for ourselves, doesn't usually happen. If you haven't seen part one of this project, go ahead and click up here, I think right here, there now, and you'll get the link and you'll be able to watch the video. We are continuing that build for Cole in commemoration of my client Cole's grandfather. Building this beautiful piece here, and we designed that that partial tang handle there, that rat style tang they call it. But we've got a guard roughed out, we've got the pommel roughed out, everything. So what we have to do now is get this thing through heat treat. We have to start cutting out our billets for our leather stack handle and our micarta. Very exciting. You're going to see this knife finish in this video. I finished up all the rough work on the blade in the last video, part one. So now it's time to heat treat. And boy, this was a hot day in the shop running that forge. Fan going, went through multiple bottles of water, but we got it done. Fresh batch of cookies out of the oven, and look at that forge finish. We're going to get this on the grinder now, sand it in to a satin. Oh, I just love forge finish. If this was my custom, I would wire wheel this and leave it. Just, oh, so beautiful. It's my favorite. We'll also give this tang a light brush. I heat treated this end as well. After I heated and quenched this in, I threw this back in the forge for a few seconds. Got this up to temp, dunked it. So this is hardened and tempered tool steel as well. So let's go ahead now, get this back on the grinder. Now with our blade heat treated and brought up to a satin finish, we've got to start assembling the handle. So what I'm going to do is rough down a lot of the bulk on the guard and the pommel that I've already created. Remember, we carved out those notches. If you haven't seen part one, we did that on the mill. I'm just roughing them down to size, and then I'll grind them in now, get them to the nice shape, get those aesthetic lines that I want. We'll take those to a final finish and a polish before we use the leather stack, because the way you assemble these knives is a little bit different than you would like a micarta, where you do the bulk of the work after. In part one, we cut threads on an 1/8 inch dowel at the end of our knife tang. We then drilled out a piece of thick brass, tapped some threads into that piece, and then on our vertical mill we set it up like a lathe and milled a round nut to hold the pommel on. Now there is no way to actually tighten this nut down. We don't have the room there to put like hexagonal facets on this nut, so I'm going to use the traditional technique, how you would approach something like this, and we'll mill 2 notches into the nut, and then we have to design a custom tool, a special tool to mate with this to allow us to tension this nut at the end of our leather stacked handle. I'll use a scrap piece of 01 tool steel for this process, that way it's nice and solid. We can give it a real quick heat treat and it'll just be a perfect option here. And there it is, nice and simple, and it's time to start putting together that leather stacked handle. I like gluing each piece of leather to the next one. I know manufacturers don't always do this, but I think it gives a much tighter fit over time. You can see I'm just squeezing each one over the tang. It just barely fits, very snug, kind of squeaks and whistles its way on there. And we'll just build that up until we have the right amount of shoulder exposed to add our pommel. Now in this case here, we can actually thread that nut on and use this as a compression device until you see it squeezing out that leather glue there. I'm just giving it a snug down on the threads. This is a brass nut. You're not going to want to crank this down, but gives us just a beautiful compression fit, as you can see here. A very satisfying part of the process, that is cutting down and shaping the leather stack handle. Now, I'll give you a tip. You do need razor sharp tools to shape leather like this because it's soft and pliable. So your utility knife blade like this needs to be brand new. When you take it over to the grinder, you need brand new fresh belts or you will just burn the leather and spoil your handle. It won't be a fun process at all. Let's get close to Grandpa's dye color here. I believe this will be close. Quite dark. Clean it off the brass right away, just in case. I don't want to risk any staining. Oh yeah, and that's the right color too. Kind of like a mahogany. The very last stage, I'm flushing off the end of that steel dowel with the brass, and then I'm clamping that brass nut in a drill in order to polish it. And I find a drill like this works as an awesome small device holder. Like, you've got this little mini vise there that you can use to clamp in little parts for polishing and things. I use it often, and it's just perfect for the case of this little brass nut here. What a fun build. I hope you guys thoroughly enjoyed it, and I'm sure that our client Cole will enjoy this commemoration piece for his grandfather. One that he can actually use. 01 tool steel, great carbon steel. You guys know what's happening inside that handle, and I hope it gives you some insight as to what's happening inside a lot of the knives you're buying. I'll send off that little tensioning tool with coal. You know, a lot of times these leather stack handles, leather again is an organic material. It tends to move around as it moistens and dries, and expanding is not a big deal. It'll just build up a little pressure, nothing, not a big deal at all. But what I see time and time again with old ones is the leather dries out and shrinks up, and then the pieces start flapping. I've designed this so there is room on the tang. This is drawn in a pressure fit now, still has some depth before it bottoms out on the shoulders of the tang. So if this shrinks up the leather a little bit, I'll send that tool to Cole so he can give a little bit more attention so we don't end up getting a sloppy pommel hair. Just beautiful. Love this knife. Might make one of these for myself at some point because I just love this classic look. I love this design here. Challenging machine build for me, putting that mill into work for my knife work. Very exciting. Anyways, I'm rambling on because I'm excited about it. But hit that like button, subscribe if it's your first time here. Leave me a comment down below. Maybe I'll show the leather work. We'll see. Let me know if you'd like to see the leather work for this knife. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next video.